Hello from the Belgium woods down south. Really beautiful, like totally surrounded by trees everywhere, like trees everywhere. It's like such haven for me, or heaven. It's a haven of trees and it's a heaven for me and my body. Such a treat. They're amazing. Touching a tree is also like so gifting of energy. They're like, trees are always like so peaceful, but they're like on. Anyways, this isn't about trees. I'm like hiking here in the woods. There's like so much space of like things that has been like changing a lot in the last few months of my life. And one of the things that I'm like posing as a question to you as well, like how much are you trying to uphold the perfect image of you? Trying to uphold the perfect image of your life, maybe even your body. And I made a video about that recently. It's on my YouTube channel, of like, are you being honest with yourself? This was definitely like a reality check for me, like how much I haven't been really honest with myself, or like more like waking up to a bunch of waking up to a certain degree where you're like, it always has been there, like this foundation that you've built your life upon. And then you like, when you're doing like self-development, you bit by bit, you start to become more present in your life. You start to become more present with you. You start to become more present with your body. And it's like, it keeps like uncovering all of the stuff that has never been really true for you. But you know what, you grow up in a culture, you grow up in a family, like in a certain part of your country, school, and all of like these different types of programming and ways that you as a kid you adapt to everything and everyone to to fit in, and then you become older and you try to find your way into the world. But I've noticed, definitely with myself, and I also see it like with other kids as well, it takes like a fucking strong personality to like not submit to it. It's like at one point, and I remember mine very well, where I did submit to life as it was presented. And I used to be like a mega daydreamer. That has come back, yay. And I remember at one point, because like, Evie, you have to stay with your 2 feet on the ground, blah blah blah, like all of that stuff. Evie, you're a dreamer. And I, at one point, not just because of that, but there was like something in me that broke, that gave up the faith and the belief and the power of dreaming. Probably because of like, running into a lot of obstacles, and running into systems, and running into the way that life is supposed to be. And I remember in my 20s, I was so fucking frustrated about everything and trying to suppress it also at the same time. And like, yeah, what is actually true for you? Like, yeah, like you're, I know it's a bit of especially like where I live, I can like feel the resistance to looking at stuff, or like trying something different, trying new different things out, Because what happens is like when we're like when we start to be honest with ourselves, it's like this. It can function like a chain reaction where there's like you're exposing yourself to one lie, and then you start to realize like, wow, there's so much more that there's so much more lies that aren't really true anymore for you, and that can be, with your work, with regards to your relationships, like you name it, like all these areas. And what I've noticed also with that is like how they're like all these like systems and structures that are like glued together, and that one system and structure holds in place that other structure and system of what we are living our lives from. And then when you take like a few cards out, exposing some of these lies for you, like how much I have done, how much are we like still trying to, all these control systems that are like getting activated to make sure that your life, your foundation is not breaking down. And it is also, it is like a coping mechanism, and coping mechanisms are not wrong. Like it definitely has its value in certain situations and areas of our lives that are like keeping our existence, safe. For example, if you're like maybe in an unsafe relationship, or you're living in an unsafe area in the world, where there's war, there are certain coping mechanisms that make sure you survive. And then how often do we keep doing these coping mechanisms? We keep doing them all the time, where it's not in our advantage anymore, it's in our disadvantage. And having a little look here, where do I need to go? Because I have been hiking a lot here in these woods, and a hike of 1 hour did turn out in a hike of 3 hours straight ahead. And that's a funny thing, like I knew something like was off, but it was fun. Anyways, getting off sidetrack with this. So what if we can like become more present in our lives from kindness? Like if I started it always was. I wanted to when I started my journey of self-development, and I would say like 10 years ago, because that was maybe like the active choice of like things need to be different, like really different, but it was always one choice that was opening new doors. And I did it from a lot of unkindness to myself. There was always like this nagging judgment on myself all the time. I'm not good enough. I didn't really get myself. And it only has been like in the last few years where I really asked for more kindness and vulnerability and intimacy with myself, that I started to acknowledge myself as a creature that whose brain is very different from other brains, and I create also very different. And I also had to like really come clean with how super OCD I am, and that I try to really hide it from myself so dynamically, and like piled under lots of judgments, and not really embracing it as a capacity. So that is really changing now. And then I've also that's been like half a year where something that has been running in my family and I didn't know about it, and I don't want to like put it off as like a label, but how much I have been I wouldn't say suffering, pretty bipolar in how do I describe it? Because I sort of get like you have like these different degrees also of bipolar, and I know that I'm not. I'm like high functioning bipolar, and and I was also hiding that so dynamically. So it wasn't even like visible for me, and that came to light last year. And then I had a conversation with my mom, and she's like, "Yeah, bipolar runs in the family." And I'm like, "Oh, why didn't I know about that?" Um, and now I'm like discovering also the gifts in that, and going beyond what this world says bipolar means, and how it's like a disability. So here again, it's like, no, let's do this different. Because like how much also to keep to like really see this as a disability, like how much self-judgment do we have to have, like how much judgment is coming from like all the doctors and everybody who has like opinion about that. Because like I know that I'm not saying now, I think this is like the first time I say it public, and I have been a bit weary about it, like, hey, I'm Ivy, and I'm like, by the way, I'm bipolar. It brings like a certain set of points of views with people. So like, is she crazy? Again, I reckon like if we have like that level of presence with ourselves and that level of kindness with all our peculiar abilities that we all have, how different would we be, or how different would we be with ourselves? How different would we show up? And one of the major tools that have helped me so much of unveiling all of this with so much more kindness than I ever knew, that I ever known, that I ever learned about. So much kindness and presence is it's a body process from the modality Access Consciousness, and it's called Access the Bars. And the reason why it's called the bars is because it's literally like you're touching 2 points on your head, and it's like a bar, and when you put your hands on it, on these specific points, it discharges polarity of sticky points of views that we have about anything, about life, about aging, about death, about money, about our bodies, about being male, female, sexuality, about joy and sadness. And there's like 32 different points on your head, and the more you run them also with different people, the more it discharges all of these different points of view. So it's basically like a very good idea to exchange that body process with many different people. So you're like discharging many different points of views. And what I've noticed also, like sometimes it's when you're like exchanging with a certain person, there's like a lot to clear, and then with some people there's not so much to clear, and but it always clears something. So it's also like a very social type of body work, I find, because I've been meeting like people from all over the world because of this, traveling all over the world, and like there's like all these cool groups. They call Access Consciousness groups from like a particular country, and you're like, hey, my name is Evie, and I'm in the neighborhood. Do you? Who wants to exchange? And then you meet new people, and then we get to exchange, and you meet people that you otherwise would never meet. And then it's because it discharges so much stuff, it also creates so much kindness with when you meet like random strangers. So it's such a gift in so many ways. And I am offering, so I'm giving these sessions, but I'm also offering these trainings. There's like it's a 1 day training, and then you learn this body process. You learn to gift it, and one or more people, depending on how many people are in the class, and then you learn also how to receive it. So it's like a really cool day with a manual, a kind day, a spacious day, where you learn stuff, but you also let go of a lot of stuff because you're gifting it and you're receiving it. So you basically have like 4 sessions in that one day. So all of the stuff that comes up in that class and all the stuff that you learn, everything that comes up with that also gets discharged with those 4 sessions. And then after that you get like a certificate, and then you can offer it to your friends, family. You can also offer it professionally. You can even like parts of it you can add to any kind of like type of body work, like massage and reflexology. What else do you have? Like even like people, I can't remember the word right now, but like people who work with bones, chiropractics. You can use certain parts, and then it amplifies the session. People can get more out of it. There's like less resistance, and like how cool is that? And there's so much more to talk about this cool body process. I've been doing it. I discovered it in 2015 when I was living in Australia, and I had my first class. It was like a big class. It was in Brisbane. I think there were like 100 people in the room, and there were like people online, and yeah, like so much has changed and shifted in such a kind, spacious way.